I don't know if this thing is live. I have no way to check it right now. So just bear with me if it is. It's saying it is, but I can't find it on my phone. Just bear with me. I have no way of tracking the what you call it, the comments. So, and this thing ain't coming up on my phone. So it says it's live, but I no way for me to check it. So we're just gonna get into it. All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Racha Kudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is a response to Elder Apostle Tar's video. Yep, so we are live. Entitled, this is a response to the woman was a Greek. Was she an Israelite? All right, so let's get into it. And, I posted the video in the description box for those that are interested in watching it. And I just put a couple of precepts together that came to mind, and I just want to just give my 2 cents on it. So just bear with me 1 second. We're going to go to the book of Mark. Is this Mark? No, I'm sorry, Matthew. It's written in the book of Matthew and in the book of Mark. All right. So it says the Syrophoenician woman. Syrophoenicia was pretty much the area of Syria and Canaan. All right. You've heard Elder Pastor break it down. He broke it down in this video, which is what is it? It's almost 12 and a half minutes long. So let's read it, and I'll go through a few points, show you, we're going to go to a couple of maps, and then a couple of other precepts, and then we just end the lesson there. Because this woman she was an Israelite. She wasn't no Greek. She wasn't no Canaanite. She wasn't no Syrophoenician. She wasn't of another nation. She was an Israelite that happened to be in this coast. All right. And the Lord healed her daughter because she is an Israelite, but it wasn't time for the Israelite foreigners to receive the truth as of yet, because the prophecy states that the tents of Judah would receive it first before the Israelite foreigners would get it. Okay. So let's go to Matthew 15:21. Then Yahushua went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Sidon. So where is Tyre and Sidon located? Well, I have a map here which shows you the Mediterranean Sea. Up above it is Cyprus. Okay. You have the land of Israel here, Jerusalem, Lebanon, and you see there Sidon and Tyre, which are on the sea coast. So this is the area in which Yahushua was at. All right, he was in this region here when he ran across this woman, or should I say this woman came to him, begging him, to heal her daughter. Okay, you could look it up for yourself. It says, and behold, behold, a woman of Canaan. So she was of that region, a woman of Canaan. Now, where is Canaan? Canaan is what's known today as the land of Israel and those surrounding lands around there. Let's show you that real quick. Land of Canaan. Let's go to I should have put map. Let's see, is this going to come up? Let's see. Let's see. All right. You have here 7 nations of Canaan. You have the Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, Hivites, which are Canaanites. These are all Canaanites. Okay. These are all Canaanites. All of these uh, regions here belonged to the Canaanites at one time, and it was promised to Israel in process of time when you go back into the prophecy of Genesis, the 9th chapter. Okay. So going back, it says, came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. And you can read the rest of this, because what we're going to do also is hit this point, but also go to the book of Mark 7, because in the book of Mark 7, it goes into a little bit more explicit. This here just says that she was a woman of Canaan. So she was just living in that region. All right. Canaan, Ayos. It says right here, Canaan, which is Canaan. Canaanite, the name of the ancient inhabitants of Palestine before its conquest by the Israelites. In the Lord's time, a Phoenician. This was a woman that was in that region. All right, and really, that's the main point, that she was an Israelite woman, an Israelite foreigner that was living in that region of Canaan. Now, when we go to Mark 7, right, it says the Syrophoenician woman once again, and I believe it said it here also. Yep, the Syrophoenician woman. It gives a little more detail. Mark 7:24, and from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Zidon, which we read, and entered into an house and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, which you had Israelites that were being called Greeks back then. When you go back into the history, there was a point where Jake couldn't call themselves Israelites. So if they couldn't call themselves a Jew or an Israelite, what did they have to call themselves? Greeks, because it was the Greeks that were ruling, and they Hellenized, Israel back then, and they Hellenized the nations that they conquered back then. So it says the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation. So Syrophoenician means Syrian Canaan, Syria Canaan. All right, when you break it down. Syrophoenician, which the elder pastor went over this. Syrophoenician, Surophoenicia. Syrophoenician exalted palm, the nation of a mixed nation, half Phoenicians and half Syrians. So they were the land was Syria and Phoenicia. It was a combination of the two lands. Let's see. It was talking about that region. All right. Now, let's go back. So you see that, because it says Syrophoenician by nation, and they say, oh, that means that she was a heathen woman. No, she was an Israelite. She was an Israelite foreigner, just like you had Israelite foreigners that were calling themselves Elamites, Israelite foreigners that were calling themselves Greeks, Israelite foreigners that were calling themselves, by different names of the different nations. You had Israelites that were calling themselves Romans, they were actually Israelites. The letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the Romans were who? Israelites that were living in Rome. But they were being called Romans. But were they really Romans? No, they were not. They were Israelites that were calling themselves Romans. So let's go real quick, show you something here in Deuteronomy, the 26th chapter. All right, and we're going to read on down. The main point, I believe, is around the 6th verse. This is dealing with the first fruits. But we're going to get to the main point, like I said, a little further down. So Deuteronomy 26:1, and it shall be when thou art come in unto the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee for an inheritance, and possesses it, and dwellest therein, that thou shalt take of the first of all the fruits of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land, that the Lord thy power giveth thee. Yeah, because the Lord said, he will give us a land flowing with milk and honey. All right, meaning plenty of vegetation, plenty of crops. A land that was fruitful with cattle and everything. And shall put it in a basket, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy power shall choose to place his name there. Right, this is the offering of the first fruits. And thou shalt go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto the Lord thy power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that I am come unto the country which the Lord sware unto our fathers for to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of thine hand, and set it down before the altar of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai thy power. And thou shalt speak and say before Yahweh thy power, a Syrian ready to perish was my father. Now, what is this speaking about? This is speaking about Jacob. Now, was Jacob Syrian? No, he was not Syrian. Jacob was a Shemitic Hebrew. He came from the line of Shem on down and Eber, because Shem is where you get the term Shemitic or Shemite. Then Eber is where you get the term Hebrew. So he was a Shemitic Hebrew of that line. Now, why was he called Syrian? Because when you go back into the history, the Abraham, who was living in the land of Ur of the Chaldees, okay, let's go to Ur of the Chaldees. Chaldees. Let me put in a map. Ur of the Chaldees. Let's see. Let's get a good one. We'll get something that's clear. Nah, that shit is fucking. What about this one? And this is dog shit too. Let's see this one here. Yeah, I think this might be the one. Yep. As you see here, you have Babylon here. That's Babylonia, Ur. That's Ur the Chaldees. This is where Abraham was born. Terah Abraham. And then he took a journey, which they call the Fertile Crescent, which follows along the lines of this darker shade here. And they came into the land of Syria. All right. His brother Haran, which there was a place in Syria called Haran, where his brother died, and they named it after him there. And then Abraham had descendants that lived in this region. That's why it said a Syrian ready to perish was my father, which goes into Jacob. All right. This is speaking about Jacob. And thou shalt speak and say before the Lord thy power, a Syrian ready to perish was my father. So was he really Syrian? No, he just happened to live in that region. All right. That's why it says, when it says thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, it should really say thou shalt not abhor a Syrian. Why? Because of the people that were in that land were descendants of Abraham, his direct family line. And this is why they would send their sons there to get wives. Now, it could very well be possible that this woman that was there was one of the descendants of Abraham's family line. Okay, A Syrian ready to perish was my father, and he went down into Egypt, which that's what he did, and sojourned there with a few, right? Because they wouldn't, I believe it was either 70 or 75 souls that entered into the land of Egypt and became a great nation there, became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. Okay. So was he really Syrian? No, he was in Israel. Well, at this time, his name had, well, he did, his name was changed to Israel by this time. You know, Jacob's name was eventually changed to Israel. All right. So he was an Israelite that lived in the land of Syria that was being called Syrian. All right. So don't be simple, man, because this truth is only for the Israelites. So by you saying, it's just like saying, like, do you have these Israelites that say that Cornelius was an Edomite? So by you saying that Cornelius is an Edomite, you're saying that, but then they'll turn around and say that salvation is only for the Israelites. So how can Cornelius be an Edomite if salvation is only for the Israelites? You see? So the woman was a Syrophoenician. She was an Israelite foreigner that was living in that region. Now it could very well be that she was a direct descendant of Abraham's, brother's family, which was Abraham's family line that still was living there during the time of Yahushai, or it could just be that she was an Israelite foreigner that happened to be born in that region. But nevertheless, she was an Israelite foreigner. Then here in Ezekiel, right, the 16th chapter and the first verse, it says, "Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying," because remember, it says the woman was she came from the area of Canaan, right? When we read in Matthew the 16th chapter and 22nd verse, "And behold, a woman of Canaan," meaning she came from that region. All right. So going back to Ezekiel 16 and 1, "And again the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, Thus saith the Lord power unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity." See, thy birth and thy nativity, meaning you Israelites, right? Is of the land of what? Canaan, because this is where our nation was pretty much, this is what they inherited. You know, the Lord caused Abraham and Isaac and Jacob to, well, actually, Abraham, Isaac, and even Jacob to live in that region prior to receiving this land. It says, "Thy father was an Amorite and thy mother a Hittite." Does that mean that they were actually Hamites and Hittites, or they were really Canaanites? No, they were living in that region. You have to know how to differentiate between when somebody is an actual heathen or nation, or when it's speaking about a region. All right, like the mighty men of King David, they were called Uriah the Hittite and different other ones. They were not Hittites. They were not heathen. They were Israelites that were living in these regions. Like you might have a dude by the name of Joe, and there, Joe is a common name. You got Joe from Brooklyn, and you got Joe from the Bronx, and you got Joe from Manhattan, and you got Joe from Staten Island. That's what this is. The woman was an Israelite that was living in the region of that was called Syrophoenicia, in the region of Canaan. All right, now I got a map here of the land of Israel, and you have all these different Canaanite names, and the Philistines, which are Mizraim. You have the Hittites here. See, on this side Hittites, and on this side the Amorites. So this is all the land of Israel. Now you have the Jordan River here. Then you have what they call the Transjordan, which is across the Jordan. Amorites over here. Then you had Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh that settled on this side over here, where the Amorites were. Then you had the rest of the other tribes, the 10 tribes, the 9.5 tribes that settled on this side. This is where the Hittite side was at. Hittite side, Amorite side. Just like it said here in the prophecy. Thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite and thy mother an Hittite, because they lived in that land, not because they were actually Hittites, because they were Israelites. It just told you that they were Jerusalem. So this woman that came from the coasts of Tyre and Sidon, of the land of Canaan, who was called a Syrophoenician by nation, a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, was an Israelite foreigner that was living in the region of Syrophoenicia. Okay, in this region, you have Syria here, and then when you go further south, this was Canaan or Phoenicia, Syrophoenicia. So she was living in this region when Yahushai came across her, and the reason why the Lord, dressed her that way was because it wasn't time for the Israelite foreigners to get this message yet. Okay. So that's pretty much it. You could do your own research and look up stuff on your own. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.